past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of news about AMD's graphics cards, but as much as AMD would love for it to be about the Radeon 7000 series, it's actually all been focused on their last generation cards because they've just been straight up dying. And thanks to ChrisFix Germany, we have data on over 60 AMD GPUs failing, 48 of them experiencing the same exact problems. One interesting note is these failures have only been happening on 6800 and 6900 models. The common factor of failure includes shortened memory rails, shorted SoC rails, and physical silicon chips being fractured. Many people believe these issues were caused by a driver that AMD pushed out 2 months ago, since the graphic cards only started dying in numbers after the update. On the surface, this does make sense, especially when said drivers now give an option to turn off thermal protection. Usually, this option would only be useful in extreme overclockers. And with that in mind, AMD made this function that has to be manually turned on. But for some, it could be seen as an easy way to gain a bit more FPS, leading regular users to casually flipping this setting on and allowing their cards to burn up. Or it could be a case of a bad drivers turning this feature on without the user's knowledge. Both does sound like a reasonable explanation, and with the silicon chip physically fracturing, something that does happen when the core is exposed to extreme operating temperatures, it only adds weight to the theory. But there are a couple plot holes here. To start, the shortened memory and SoC rails alone show that this is not a driver issue since drivers can't affect those foundational pieces. If you need more convincing though, it's a common knowledge that AMD ran these generation of cards very hot, which can lead to shortened lives of GPU chips and possible fracturing. Plus, AMD also has stated that their drivers were not the issue. With the driver theory no longer valid, well, what could it be? Good news is that we have a couple more pieces of evidence that could lead to a solid explanation. First, there was ever only one large case of graphic cards dying, and it was located in Germany, home of previously mentioned ChrisFix Germany. Him receiving a large number of cards all at once with the same issues and reporting on it most likely allowed an outlet for other consumers to bring up this issue they have been experiencing. And to be fair, graphic cards dying is something that does happen. I have first-hand experience with this when my original Furia X died. But the resulting mass hysteria may have caused this one-off case in Germany to get lost in the crowd. The other important piece of information is actually two that goes hand in hand. Almost all cards worked on by ChrisFix were second-hand cards, and the cards themselves were exceptionally clean. It was so clean, the only explanation that the cards were in a controlled environment, like a storage building or a server rack, for example. You may see where I'm going with this. A funny coincidence, roughly 2 to 3 months ago, a cryptocurrency Ethereum had a pretty hefty crash, causing it to drop by around a third of its value, and never really bouncing back until recently. A crypto miner, after a brutal year of value drop, could have seen this as the final straw, triggering him to tear down his rigs and sell his cards. And say it took about a month or so to sell all these cards, that would perfectly time with the strange rise in dead cards in Germany roughly 2 months ago. On top of that, crypto mining programs are notorious for running GPUs hard, and with a card that naturally runs hot, this could spell long-term disaster for the given graphics card. This theory seems to hold the most weight, with ChrisFix believing this to be the case as well. And personally, it also sounds like the most logical explanation to me. But if you want more news on another card that has been melting, check out this video about Nvidia's cancelled Ada Lovelace Titan card, and I'll see you next time.